Hi there, my name's Dakota with Northern Knives. We're doing a special live stream this month to basically bring on our friend Marc Cameron. If you want to tell him anything about yourself, Marc, kind of give the folks the lay of the land.
Should we introduce you or you want to introduce you?
Well, I mean, I'm fine. Marc Cameron, I've known these guys for, gosh, how long you been here?
12 years, I think I've known you.
So yeah,
Is that right
since you got here, you were designing the Severance when
That's correct.
when I met you.
And that was one of my first tests when I moved up here.
Yeah, so been coming in here. I was still with the US Marshals when I first came on and first came in to visit, and of course got enamored of all the knives and writing books at the time, and then I just started putting your books in as cool accoutrement for my people.
We started right here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's it.
Wait, and
The Severance. The Severance was right
is
here.
in that one. Yeah. I didn't set that up. That's always there, actually.
Oh, good.
I didn't
Yeah,
set that up for you
okay.
here.
Good. Yeah, you say that now.
You can check the videos. They're all on.
Yeah, they're all on there.
I've seen them before. I've been very happy.
So I know that the Severance was originally made and designed and sold to a drug interdiction team. Was that part of your doing?
No,
or
not
it's
at
just
all.
a random crazy thing that Mike and Ryan.
He
and
just
not Mike,
liked it.
It was such a, so the character in those first books, my first series, is named Jericho Quinn, and kind of a little side story. I had written a bunch of westerns under the name Mark Henry, and then I decided, I had a New York editor, New York literary agent, and I wrote a book about Alaska where it was about a APD officer and a bush pilot, and a little romance, and some native kids saw a murder, but that was a pretty dang good book, and my agent trotted it all around New York. And remember, I had 6 books published, and several of them had been on the USA Today list at the time. Nobody wanted it. Nobody would buy it.
Nobody wanted Alaska-based book.
Yeah, nobody wanted Alaska-based book, and I got a really nice. This has been in 2007-ish.
Oh, yes.
So right when Alaska was
2007.
exploding,
Right
all these
before.
publishers.
Yeah, so right before. So we didn't have the 19 or however many reality
shows. The Deadliest Catch was in top of the Discovery playlist.
And I don't think Sarah Palin had been elected or was about to be elected.
Yeah,
so we just weren't really known, really.
Yeah.
And so I got this rejection letter, and most of the time rejection letters are they look like confetti. They flutter out of the envelope. Now it's an email, thanks but no thanks, or no email at all.
I'm sure that's the best.
Yeah, exactly. Just ignore you. But and to their defense, they get hundreds a day of submissions.
For sure.
So I got a 1.5-page rejection letter from a major, one of the big 5 now, big 7 at the time.
So they acknowledged you.
They acknowledged me. They were very effusive. We like your writing, and then he or she, I'm not going to say who it was, I had dinner with that person several times, and they don't even remember that they wrote me this letter.
They conveniently.
Well, I don't think they would want to know. But
your pen name's different now, so
exactly.
Maybe that's
exactly. So they said in this letter, with your job as a deputy marshal, you need to think over the top. You need to write James Bond, Jason Bourne, write some kind of a military thing, write something that's so over the top. You do jujitsu, all this kind of stuff.
They want you to write a Tom Clancy novel.
Well, kind of, yeah. And then he ended the letter with something that sort of changed the trajectory of my writing. And he said, and anyway, who really cares about Alaska? And who cares about a bunch of Alaska Native kids? And man, I got pissed.
Yeah.
I was just really, so I went back, kind of got away from Westerns, and I put that other book away, and I wrote this book about this OSI agent that rides motorcycles, and I was coming in Northern Knives at the time. In fact, Ray gave me a Hisatsu.
Japanese, because Jericho carries a Hisatsu.
Yeah, he carries a Hisatsu in the beginning.
Hisatsu, for laymen like them, totally not me.
Hisatsu is a CRKT, right?
Is it CRKT or is it? Yeah, it's CRKT.
I think CRKT. It's a Japanese killing blade.
About that long.
It is.
It tapers like a crane beak almost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's
So you could totally mount it to the gas tank on your motorcycle and just. Whoosh.
Well, I mean,
he's got a different sword for that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
So he carries it. He actually carries the Hisatsu in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then meets his teacher, his sensei, and she gifts him a wakizashi, a small Japanese sword. And
the tactical indoor sword.
The tactical sword, exactly. So again, over the top, and he wears black leathers. He carries this sword behind his back. He speaks 7 languages.
Rides
and I thought rides a BMW like I ride a BMW.
Or a 2-story bike.
Yeah, like 2-story. Yeah, like a Suburban. You look at bus windows in the eye. But so I sent that in, and we sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and did 8 in that series and 2 novellas. And so, and then I was able to actually later go back, pull that other one back that nobody wanted, and rejigger it a bit, make him a deputy marshal because I had retired by then, and that became open carry.
Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. So I unfortunately have not read any of your books. The majority of the action adventure books I've read.
Hisatsu.
I've read a couple Arliss Cutter books.
It's not like he doesn't have access to them. Like.
But I haven't read any of the Jericho Quinn books. Is he Native Alaskan, or does he come from Lower 48?
He lives in Alaska. He's from Alaska, but he's at the time I wrote it, my eldest son was a Air Force OSI agent, special agent. Actually, he had just graduated from the Air Force Academy and had been hired by Air Force OSI. And so, they say writers just, we remember everything we hear and forget where we heard it so we can take the credit. So most houses that I've lived in have been tweaked out to be bad guys' lairs, or, the good guys' houses, and people that I know get.
So you've lived a lot of like ballistic missiles.
Yeah. Well, at least visit them.
Yeah.
But so I use my own kids, my own grandkids, and just kind of, they're not based on any particular character, but they are.
You grab the pieces you need.
The pieces I see. I think you were in a book.
Yeah, you gave me the nickname Gramps. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I tried.
I was in Oath of Office.
Yeah, Oath of Office. I think you were a pilot, right?
I was an old pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you just acted old. You were an old soul, I think.
That's all right. My wife tells me the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. My wife said, but I am old. So when people make fun of me, I just kind of smile and go, well, it's happening to you too. So he's a Air Force OSI agent, former CRO, combat rescue officer, be the officers over PJs. And I had an acquaintance that did the opposite. He was a OSI agent that became a combat rescue officer. So kind of was able to do some research there through the Marshal Service. And this guy is from Alaska. But he works all over the world, and kind of a Jason Bourne, much more over the top than the Clancy's. I would say the best description of those books comes from my youngest son Dan when he was in college when I was writing them, and he read the second one, Active Terror.
Yeah, Active Terror.
I don't get to title them, by the way. My editor titles them. But I sent him one. Actually, I think he found it in the library, and he wrote me a letter, and he said, "Dad, I hope that someday I can wheelie a Royal Enfield into oncoming gunfire and save the girl." And I said, "Yep, that's the books." Right there.
Oh, we actually have some cromulent comments here. So we got Dave saying hello.
Hello, Dave.
We got Machine Gun Monkey. Hello.
He's a great guy.
We really want to meet you in person. Like I need a name to the face, a face to the name.
That's a very dangerous thing to
I'm not going to pronounce your name. I apologize. Is the original book with the APD officer bush pilot available? Did it ever find the light of day, or is it still in a draft pile of some sort?
Oh, that's when you were saying you rejiggered.
You rejiggered, but I'd like to read
it
the
into
original.
open carry.
Yeah, so it's not. I don't even know what the original is on.
He doesn't even have the original.
On like 3.5 discs, 5 floppies.
3.5 inch floppies.
Maybe even 5.5. Maybe even 5.5. It's a lot. Or on the ribbon of my typewriter. But I took bits and pieces of it out, turned the APD officer into a deputy marshal, and just kind of took little bits and pieces of the mystery, basically.
Yeah.
And then because when I was with the Marshal Service,
you took the skeleton and refleshed it.
Refleshed it, yeah,
okay.
exactly, and changed some bones around.
Okay.
But I couldn't write about the Marshal Service when I was with the Marshals, and so that's why I went that other way. But the Arliss Cutter books are definitely.
Is that like an unspoken agreement?
No,
or?
it's a rule.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a letter. Yeah, they're not at the Department of Justice. You don't. I was not. I had a letter saying I could write westerns. I could write as long as I didn't write about
what you were doing,
my job, and I never even said what I was doing. Now it says on the books, former Deputy U.S. Marshal, retired Chief Deputy, whatever. But back then it was works for a government agency, which I think my editors kind of liked that because they made it seem like I was.
You're clandestine, and they could kind of make it.
When you said OSI, I was like, wait, no, the CIA hasn't been called that for years.
No, that's OSS. No, I actually just got to go. Part of one of the real perks of the writing for the Tom Clancy estate is the trips I get to go on. So I met a retired CIA case officer doing some research several books ago. In fact, his name's Jim Lawler, also a fantastic writer, very realistic.
I have met
writer.
a couple CIA guys
they're not what you think,
did things, and they're always normal people, but they're always so goddamn evasive. Did you come across that too?
I can't say.
I can't confirm.
No, they're just spies that act like spies are not very good spies, right? And so the ones that I know, a good example would be Gary Schrone. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Gary Schrone. You ever read the book First In? So First In is about, so if you ever watched the movie Horse Soldiers, okay, about the guys that go, the Special Forces A-teams that go into Afghanistan, work with General Dostum and all of that, or to contact Dostum and the Northern Alliance. Well, I'm sitting down with Jim Lawler, this CIA case officer friend of mine, and he invites Gary Schrone, who I didn't know at the time was a legend. He just passed away last year, but an absolute legend. Both of them actually are. Jim is evasive and doesn't talk about it. Yeah. But I got to go to the CIA.
You ask questions and they somehow change the topic, and 5 minutes in, you're like, wait a minute.
I know. And
I asked you a different question.
Exactly. But they're good at that. They're good at that. That's called the Glomar response. I can either confirm or deny. Right?
Similar. They just have a field around them.
Similar experience, like being prior service military. You've got kind of like, your infantry guys and your mortar guys, and they're always kind of out there like bragging, like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm infantry. I'm Cat
It's
Scout,
kind of a big deal.
And then another guy walks in the room and you're like, and you go ask what he does, and he's like, I sell vacuums, and you're like,
that's the guy.
Really?
I bet you don't.
You don't.
I bet you don't sell. Well, that's kind of the way Jim is.
Because we get a lot of military guys in the shop, and the conversations go that way a lot, just because of the nature of what we do. And it's funny how people will talk to someone for a while and they'll leave. And it's like, it's funny how you never meet anybody who wasn't special forces. Everybody wants to tout up what they did.
No, exactly, and that's the nice thing about what I noticed. So Jim Lawler, I read some of his books, and he writes some of the best real no shit I was there kind of books when it comes to espionage. They're not over the top gunplay type books, but they're working with assets and stuff that he really did.
A lot of anxiety situations where you have to move just right and get the puzzle to fit to get what you're doing.
Make a note.
Exactly. It's about recruiting people to spy for the United States, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to have what he calls, and I'm paraphrasing it here, but basically sociopathy within bounds. You have to be able to lie to people, but still have very clear lines of right and wrong, right? Okay. So I know Jim. I just spent a couple of days with Jim and his wife at their house, and he invited me to come on a tour of CIA's museum. I don't know if you've ever heard of CIA's museum. It's outlined at the George Bush Center for Intelligence.
I listened to a podcast done by the curator.
Okay, Brian. Yeah. Good guy. Super nice guy.
You get to see all the kooky, weird stuff, and then you see some really subtle things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the cool thing about it is they don't hide their mistakes. There's a display on the Bay of Pigs. There's stuff that we messed up on. And
I'm frankly surprised about that.
Well, yeah, I am too. And I think most laymen would be, but the CIA is not what we see on TV.
How big is the MK Ultra?
I'll Glomar you that on that.
Okay.
Can't confirm or deny that even exists. But so we're in there, and Jim Lawler, who's this super soft-spoken, nice guy, I'm walking down the little aisleway there, and his it's not a hologram, it's just like a video of him telling about this super cool mission that he led for like the last decade of his career that saved the world. And I'm like, oh, well, it's kind of cool that I know you, right? He just doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so that's what's cool when you talk about, never meet anybody that was not in special forces or a deputy marshal or whatever. These guys don't talk about what they do.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when you go in there and you see all the stars on the wall, the memorial wall, and the book with some names are there, but some are just a star.
Yeah.
They went into that job
Knowing
that they were never going to be able to sit around and tell war stories.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Part of it too is you get to that level of like operations, and there's a lot of stress associated with that, and you don't necessarily want to just spill
Why would you
that
risk it?
or revisit it
Yeah.
with somebody that you may or may not be close with. I mean, even family members, sometimes you're not sharing all those details. You might be a curious person. You want to prod in the details of the person's life. And like, listen, like I lost a friend on that mission. Like I lost a marriage to that. Like I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, maybe let's not revisit it.
Yeah, like,
Especially with a
it's in
stranger at the
past.
bar.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or a guy I've known at the knife shop for 4.5 minutes.
Exactly. That's very true. Well, so Gary Schroen came over, and you guys should read it. There's a book called First In. It's written by Gary. Yeah, I can't remember who published it. I can't remember which publisher, but a major publisher. And it was endorsed by CIA. They wanted him to write it. But if you watch The Horse Soldiers and you see Taylor Sheridan's character, the guy with the backwards hat and the bag of money. So Gary Schroen was 57 years old when he went over, about to retire, and he led the Jawbreaker team that basically got all their gear together. And instantly, Billy Waugh, do you know that name?
No.
Well, you guys should look this stuff up. Billy Waugh was in this. So people will write me and say, Mr. Cameron, you're stupid for writing a John Clark who's 70 years old. He can't do that stuff. And I just go, Billy Waugh. That's all I say.
I'll look up Billy Waugh.
He just passed away in his 90s.
There's some
damn.
angry old men.
Billy Waugh was and Gary Schroen and Jim Lawler, just really icons in the intelligence.
I'm already
community.
taking notes. That might be a long
there's
but I'm
something to
already
be
taking
said about
notes.
an old man on a battlefield. Like,
Well, if he's still alive.
If he's
after
still
that
alive, there's a
time, right.
reason. Yeah,
Exactly. So
exactly.
Gary and I or Jim and Gary and I are chatting at Jim's table after a nice steak dinner, and I just start listening to these stories. And I mean, my son calls me a former action guy, but
You got Kung Fu grip, right?
Hey, I have Kung Fu grip, right? And a G.I. Joe beard I used to have, but I'm nothing compared to these guys. So Gary went over before the military went over. The agency was there with Jawbreaker team setting it all up so the horse soldiers could come in. We don't see that in the show.
Yeah, they don't put that in there.
And Gary said when he was watching the movie, he saw Taylor Sheridan's character, and he basically has like a backpack or a duffel full of $15 million. And he says, "Don't shoot the guy with the backwards hat." And I got to take this money over the Hindu Kush. Don't shoot the guy with the backwards hat. And Gary said, I looked at my wife and said, I think that's supposed to be me. And I'm sitting at the table with these guys that were there. And he looked at me and he goes, I can't really talk too much about that other than what's in the book, but I know exactly how much $15 million in a duffel weighs. That's pretty. And so I'm like, writing all that stuff down.
So he's going over to loosen the soil a little before the guys coming until.
So Gary, he's like I said, he's passed away now, but he worked in Afghanistan back during the Mujahideen days. And so he had a lot of contacts with them in the Northern Alliance. So after 9/11, when Bush said we need to send some people over, and the military has certain rules, and we got to have people to rescue our pilots if they go down, all that. So they had some setup to do. They sent Gary and his team in a matter of weeks.
When did they send them in?
Oh, just a matter of weeks after 9/11.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, read First In. I'm gonna
To go back in.
Like
and
I
shake
said,
hands,
I've been making
all
notes.
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't make me write.
But I say that because the people that I write about, the John Clarks, the Jack Ryans,
They're
Jericho
amalgamations
Quinns.
of various different
They
people.
are. There are people out there, even the larger than life characters. There are people out there that, dang, they're really doing that stuff. The special forces guys. I've got a friend that's a retired colonel with 10th Special Forces, and he helps me with the A-team stuff, and it's just amazing.
Very cool.
Sorry, I cut you off, Dakota.
No, you didn't cut me off.
No,
at all,
we
man.
can go to comments. We have
I
any comments.
was going to pull up something that's nonsensical and a weird segue.
No,
that
please
was,
do. I can't wait.
Lori
Segue
looks
away.
different tonight.
Lori looks different tonight.
Lori normally sits there.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We got another one here from Machine Gun Monkey. Haha. I got to bring in my SPR lowers to get engraved from time to time.
So he's saying you have met him.
So you have
He's
met him.
been
No.
in store with getting in.
Oh, that's what he's saying. He's saying he's been
He
in
forgot his glasses.
because he
again.
brings his.
If you show the tattoo of the monkey on your arm, I might get it. We got Pamela Woodby coming in here. I've not seen any comments from her before. I got my knives a couple of days ago. We love them. Fantastic.
All right.
Great, thank
Wow,
you.
that's right.
Good.
Dave chiming in again here. I'm going to order open carry. All right.
Highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Is there a source to order your books that is better for you? I'm out of curiosity.
No, that's a good question, but no, I'm happy for
Because I
people
know
to
Amazon's
order
a
'em.
little cutthroat. So like,
No,
So MarkCameronBooks.com is what we kind of assume.
well, MarkCameronBooks.com is my website, but it's a landing page that'll send you to Amazon, Kobo,
Okay.
Barnes and Noble.
But
whatever.
one's not better than another
No,
for you.
I would never disparage a big store like Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I do. Barnes and Noble in Anchorage is really friendly to me, and they
Oh,
have
I
been
really
for a
enjoy it.
long time. And so I
I go to
like
your
when,
book signings
when
there
local. Yeah, you
when
do.
we could. Yeah.
get a coffee,
Exactly.
some hot cocoa, look at some
I
books.
remember that
with
one I
kids.
wanted to hire you when I had that kind of stalker lady there. That was creepy. He was like, "Why are you acting so crazy?" I'm like, "That lady keeps,
That lady
Yeah.
keeps coming
Um,
around.
Exactly. We have a thing that other writers do at conferences where we do the sting thing and come save me.
Oh, that's it. What it is?
Yeah.
Because
so
this
sting-
doesn't go over well. People didn't notice that.
Exactly. No, but anywhere. I mean, you can order from VJ Books. I sign a bunch of books for them. I usually sign a bunch for Poison Pen
Yeah.
in Arizona, and then for the cutters, we're gonna do. I don't have the actual firmed up dates yet, but from the 25th until May 11th, we're gonna be on a big tour through the Rocky Mountains. So North Idaho, Missouri, Montana, several stops in Montana and Wyoming and Colorado and end up in Utah. So I'll be signing a bunch of books there. And the way the world works now, almost any place that I go, I'll sign a bunch of books and then they sell online. I usually sign several dozen for Poison Pen in Arizona.
And then people turn around.
And then people order online.
So I have kind of a weird question. So do you like Missoula and Idaho? Like I know you lived there for a while and you're kind of partial to that part of the country. Do you get to dictate going there or
No.
You said
No,
they
what-
dictate?
The reason is, I think, because the Jericho Quinns were much more like the Clancys in that they're, a military background. He works for the Air Force. His partner is a humongous. Thibodeau is a humongous gunnery sergeant. I think I promoted him in the last book. His name is Jacques Thibodeau.
Yeah.
And his wife, my dad has passed away now, but he was blind through most of the time that I'm writing. And my mom read all of my books out loud to him.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
so I was like, I can't write that. Dang it. So I
Was your
gave.
mom gonna read it
I
out
was going
loud?
to read it
You can't
out
make my
loud.
mom say
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Wait,
So-
That's awesome.
Sorry.
so I gave Thibodeau
I love
a
that.
very religious wife who allots him 5 non-Bible cuss words a month. And so he still talks like a Marine, but he's very careful about
I was
it because
just-
he's terrified of his wife.
Well,
Right?
there's one time when Thibodeau's wearing
that's
an eye
awesome.
patch and he tells a story where he says his wife likes it because it's like having sex with a James Bond villain.
But she's pretty saucy. I mean, I kind of got a crush on Thibodeau's wife. I mean, they got like 7 kids.
Yeah.
And 8th in the way, and he says things like, because I have friends that are just saucy like that.
Yeah.
And I remember one time they say she's pregnant with like their 7th son, I think, and one of the characters says, "Man, there's something in the air, Jacques." And he goes, "Yeah, her feet." So even and my mom can read that out loud. But so
Oh
we,
my goodness.
sorry, I offended you.
No.
He's got 6
That's
kids.
Dakota.
I
That's
know this is
Dakota.
off topic, but
That's
I did just
Dakota,
realize
yeah.
that you guys have matching shirts today. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the same weave.
Oh,
It
shit.
is the same
The
weave,
weave is
and mine is a French cuff as
French
well.
cuff,
I just
yeah. Look at that.
You shop at
I'll
Stallone's.
watch you wear.
Yeah.
We have a
We'll watch
little
you
bit
wear
of
that.
class.
What
in here,
watch you
Alaska.
wear? Are you wearing a
Jump hour.
Rolex?
Yeah.
I can't see the glare.
It's a 1990.
Oh, no way.
98. Yeah.
Very nice.
1998. No date.
Very nice.
I'm wearing a jump hour from a fashion brand in the UK.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, since we're doing a wrist check, I
Like
got
the
a fill
Samsung.
some.
Awesome. Very good. Very good.
Mine's a ultra high tech invisible watch.
Very good.
Use a freckle past the hair there.
Exactly. Well, now that we've told people online, you guys have to walk me out to my truck, or let me borrow the Severance on the way out.
Are Alaskan authors like a closed community of some sort? Like you guys are all tight knit?
We're tight knit, but we're not closed at all. I'd say it's a very supportive community.
Okay.
Several years ago, an Alaskan romance author who writes under the name Lolo Page did a story about me in Alaska Magazine, and I try to talk her up. She talks me up. I just did a blurb for a quote for Dan Stabenow's new book. Brooke Hartman, who writes children's books, picture books, she always gives me some of those, and I read them to my grandson who lives at Dan's son.
Yeah.
So, we're always trying to help each other. The good thing about writing is a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So
Absolutely.
everybody is always saying, like, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but one of the comments on your post about me coming here was, "You don't have time for this. Get back to work writing." So that's good. People want more books, right?
Yeah.
But if you're done with one of my books, read a Mark Graney book, read a
Yeah.
Brad Taylor book, read a Simon Gervais book. So there's lots of thrillers out
I
there.
find that as that's a very Alaskan sentiment. I think that I didn't understand it until I moved here, because the other places I lived, it was larger, it was a little more cutthroat. But when I moved here, it's very much Alaskans are for Alaskans.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit if we do the same thing. I'm not
Yeah.
competing with you. The rising tide lifts all boats thing is a very, very Alaskan thing.
Very true. Yeah.
I like it a lot.
No, I see that. There's a lot of things about Alaska. So I was at Quantico doing a Marine Corps base doing a book signing for one of the Clancy's. I can't remember. Several ago.
So many.
During the big 6 whole books. During the big earthquake. So
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I turned my phone off during that, and so as soon as I'm done with the book signing, which for my books doesn't take very long, but so when I'm done with my little spiel and I sign for some people, then I turn my phone on and it just blows up.
Yeah.
And my neighbor is from down the road, is on my back deck, and he's going, "Hey, do you care?" And the earthquake happened like 5 minutes before I turned my phone on.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, I'm on your back deck. Do you mind if I squeeze through your doggy door and go check on your house? It looks like there's some damage here."
Yeah.
I mean, his own house got torn up
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
But that's my neighbor.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of other neighbors came over to help clean, because we didn't have any structural damage like a lot of people, did, sadly. But then a lot of people had stuff fall over.
Yeah.
Our whole kitchen puked its guts out on the floor.
No.
So there was broken soy sauce. And it looked like
Yeah.
a terrible hazing ritual. You're trying to make people eat all the crap so there's all this crap on the floor, and everything, just the way the house moved, it just emptied the cabinets. And we live in a small house. It's kind of a one butt, sailboat kind of a kitchen.
Yeah.
And so it's just that deep. And a bunch of stuff broke. So we got friends coming over and they're helping us. And another neighbor came over and challenged him, like, "Why are you coming into his house?" So everybody's just really, it's because we were gone for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of my buddies with the Marshal Service called me and goes, "Man, I heard about your big earthquake. You having a lot of trouble with looters up there?"
Looters?
You guys know any looters?
This is a constitutional carry state. There ain't no fucking looter in this state.
Exactly. No looters up here. No looters up here.
Oh my God.
It's funny you said soy sauce, because the only thing I lost in that earthquake, it was November of 2018,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
The only thing I lost was a bottle of hoisin sauce. So my kitchen did stink for a while. That's all I lost.
Listen,
I lost a Cholula bottle.
But my wife had a salon at the time with a bunch of renters, and all the shampoo bottles were on the floor. So when we opened the door, it was like a ball pit of shampoo bottles.
Working your way through.
I think we spent 3 hours picking up shampoo bottles.
Yeah, for me, it was I'm one of those weird parents that goes through and like anchors all the bookshelves to the wall. So when the earthquake hit, everything kind of shook, but like we didn't have a single picture, plate, anything fall. But my kid's school, Lake Otis Elementary up the street, had to close for 2 weeks because all the ceiling tiles, all the lights, shelves falling over left and right. Like my kid was scared to death because he had a big bookshelf like fall on his desk, and while he was underneath of it, it like bent the legs.
Oh yeah, boy,
and it scared the whole living crud out of him. And still today, when we have like minor earthquakes in the middle of the night, he comes and like I wake up, I'm like, oh, Riley's gonna be down here in about 5 minutes. I'm gonna go upstairs and go talk to him. And I go upstairs and he's like, oh my God, it's happening again. No, it's okay.
I must have an aversion to him. If it's under a 5, I don't even notice.
Yeah. Well, since we weren't here, I guess I don't have the PTSD that some people do.
I was in the bathroom.
We got Machine
Not
Gun
my
Monkey.
finest moment.
We got Machine Gun Monkey coming in saying that the monkey tattoo's on his leg. As long as it's not on your thigh, I'm happy to see it. We got Tim.
Welcome, Lori.
Thanks,
Hello.
sorry.
Hey, Lori.
Just a little late.
Dan 2.0. We got Timothy Valencia coming in here. Do you have a spoken version of?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the books,
audiobooks.
the books are on Audible.
yeah.
Yeah, they're on Audible. They're all the books are Audible.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Huh?
Triple Frontier is not on
Oh
Audible.
yeah,
That's
the
what's
novellas are not
Yeah.
on Audible.
Well,
yeah.
Dead Drop is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
I
Dead
didn't
Drop
know that.
is, but Triple Frontier
I
is
learned
not.
something new. I didn't know that.
Because
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, they're written.
Sorry.
David Chandler, the guy that reads, I think that's his name.
He does a great job.
Yeah, he does. He does the Arliss books. Oh, and that's one of the things that I got off on some tangent. But one of the reasons we're going through the Rocky Mountains is because the Cutters they kind of follow along the same kind of mood as C.J. Box and Craig Johnson Longmire and William Kent Kruger. And so that's sort of the way they go. And so we're hitting some of the same audiences for that and seeing how that's going. So.
Okay. We got another one here from of Talkeetna.
See one thing too.
See one thing too.
I still have
with
that.
Brown
I still have
bears
2
up
of those
here in Alaska.
bracelets.
Oh, really?
I'm also a big fan of your westerns as well. You're a talented storyteller. You'd make a fantastic high school teacher.
Well, that's a heck of a compliment. My wife is a retired teacher.
Yeah. And she taught
eighth grade, so we
yeah.
always joke that we were both in law enforcement.
She dealt with the worst grade.
Yeah, eighth grade,
Yeah.
a horrible grade.
We got Ty coming in here. Are you familiar with the author William Ophelian?
No.
He's an author in Alaska, but was formerly an astronaut and
Really?
was
Really?
involved in that astronaut love triangle.
Oh, really?
That resulted in the astronaut ex-girlfriend getting arrested for stalking and attempted murder.
Oh, was that the lady that wore the?
Yeah, she wore a diaper.
She wore a diaper.
That's what you and I remember.
She drove from Texas to Florida in a diaper. That's what I remember.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the diaper lady.
We're just going to scroll on by that one.
I'm gonna save that though, because long road trips, I didn't know that was an option.
I didn't either. Well, I knew it was an option. I just wasn't for it.
Yeah. It's not an option.
Oh, I have to rethink that. Okay, Mark. If you say so,
It's not an option.
We got Hardy chiming in here. I was driving my kids to school during the earthquake and thought of one of the front hubs or wheels was falling off.
I remember me and Claire were, my wife was behind me. We were going to her salon. She's parked behind me, and there was an aftershock. And the truck shook, and I called her and I go, "Did you just hit my truck with my other truck?" She goes, "No, idiot, it was an aftershock." And she hung up on me.
Oh, my God.
I was still in bed and like everything started shaking and I was like, oh, something's happening. I remember Thomas just like covered, like holding my head. He's like, it's okay, it'll stop eventually. The dogs are freaking out. I tried to go find my cats. I lost like all of my bowls. I had to buy new bowls. Like I lost a mirror, but my cat was behind. I have an Arctic entryway that goes down to my basement, and there's half glass on the top. And my cat's just jumping. And I just see this cat jumping out of nowhere, and I was like, oh my god, let's go. I didn't have power.
Yeah, almost all of downtown lost power. The building lost
It
power.
took like an entire day to get power back. I didn't have heat because
Jeez.
Thomas didn't weld up the fireplace insert yet because it had just broken.
Yeah.
So I'm like huddled in my jacket. I'm drinking like hard cider, just trying to stay warm. He ditches me to go help Army Navy out because they lost power, like just pipes burst.
Yeah.
He's like, I gotta go take care of this. I was like, that's fine. I'll just hang out here at the house. And I was like, I guess I'm getting drunk today because I'm not doing anything else.
I was in the bathroom and getting ready to get in the shower to go to work, and I heard my wife scream, so I ran in there and like I held onto the wall like by the closet and everything, and she held onto me. And then when it all stopped, and I was like, all right, so I'm like Porky Pig in it, so I need to get out of here. I'm gonna go back to what I was doing.
I guess while we're all telling what we were doing, I was still in bed also, but I still lived in a small dry cabin in Denali.
Oh.
And it was,
Oh,
you
shit.
definitely felt it up there, but
Yeah.
it wasn't as severe. It was my day off, so I was in bed being nice and lazy. And it felt like somebody had put a quarter into one of those motel beds. You see what
Yes.
like I was in bed, I was like, all right, this is kind of cool, but if it gets any worse, I should get up and put shoes on.
That's so Alaskan. I was in a dry cabin, just riding it out.
Oh, this is nice. Actually, I'm okay with this.
I know the immediate aftermath. I had to drive on the sidewalk on my way to work
Oh,
and report in, and then after that, with him being there for a half hour, I had to drive out to Eagle River and get like a couple different foremen, bring them back to Anchorage to help out the utility. And
oh, that's right. You had
yeah, that was a
you
fun
had that
day.
kind of job at the time.
Yeah, it was.
We came here and the power wouldn't work. It's like I'm not traipsing through a knife shop with no windows in the dark.
With them all half
Yeah.
open.
And then there's knives and axes all over the place. Like, I'm getting the fuck out of this building.
Yeah, because Thomas and I came down here first to make sure everything was okay because the power was out. I
Yeah.
was like, there's shit everywhere.
Mhm.
Nope, not
That's
happening.
funny.
Remember my bud driving down Vine Road when it was just
Yes.
giant chunks of concrete.
Did he have a Jeep?
He did.
Did he take it on the
Yeah,
giant
he had
chunks of concrete?
a Nissan diesel-powered CJ7 that he just slowly took over all the crags just because he wanted to.
Uh-huh.
He could have driven around it, but he decided not to.
I mean, why?
More fun
Why
that way.
drive
Where the
around?
big hole was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Went down into it, back up the other side.
Dan's got a picture of him on the highway. He looks like a little Lego man in this giant hole. It was amazing how quickly
Oh,
they
yeah.
can fix a highway
It was
when they
like
want
No
to.
Yeah.
contract at all.
Well, do you remember the international exit where that
Yes,
guy
the
in the
car,
the
yeah.
guy in the GMC got trapped on the little? I had just returned that rental vehicle 3 days before.
Really?
Yeah, because I had it because somebody Fiat ran me. Doesn't matter. So I had returned it, and then I saw it, and I fucking zoomed in. You can see the plate, and I was like, "Ah, that's my car."
They could fix that giant crater, but yet the potholes in Spinard by my house will still swallow your car
Oh
whole
yeah.
every day.
Yep, 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 yep.
I gotta.
Did part of the Seward Highway here in town collapse? One of the over bridges?
Not that
From
I know
Malcolm's
of.
I don't
in
know.
it with the
The Glen
vehicle.
Highway. The Glen Highway did.
I know out in the Glen Highway one did, and I had a employee who worked for me who was on it, and everyone
Oh.
started speeding immediately off the bridge when the earthquake hit, and he got off, and then it collapsed.
Wow.
That was fun, but no, there was a portion of the Seward Highway here in town. One of the bridges just collapsed.
No,
International.
wait, no. I think we're talking
International
about. I think we're talking about the international off ramp.
International
That
off-ramp.
was. Yeah, it wasn't a bridge. It was an off
Yeah.
ramp. Yeah.
Felt like a bridge to the guys on it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well,
We got Machine Gun Monkey coming in saying that when he was driving home, all the roads were empty, but every single fire alarm was going off in every building on his way home.
Would be eerie.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
And we got Dave here. I live right on New Madrid fault line in
Missouri.
southeast Missouri. Oh,
Yeah.
oh no
that
way.
sucks.
Wow.
You know, Mike, you grew up and spent a lot of time in Missouri, also,
Yeah.
as did I, and we didn't really get earthquakes that I know of, but we'd have loud house-shaking thunderstorms.
Oh my God,
And
I
used
missed
to
them.
sleep.
I missed that.
I used to
Yeah.
sleep peacefully through them. I mean, it was almost like a lull of that crack,
Yeah,
bang.
'cause you're from Texas. You had to
Right.
get that in Texas. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I kind of miss that. You know what I also miss is
I miss
I miss distant trains.
Oh yeah.
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 Because I mean, in Kansas City, like it's not possible to live more than 5 miles from a train
Right.
rail.
Right.
I miss that.
You should write
Yeah.
a country song called Distant Trains.
Distant trains. I miss a distant
I don't know.
train.
You don't hear the trains here in town. Like I live over in Turnagain, and I still hear the thing go wah
So
every night as it takes off.
I do have to admit I'm lying a little bit. The place I'm in now is over in South Edition, so the rail line that goes along the water. I'm about I'm 4 or 5 blocks off.
Yeah.
I'm not far off.
It's not as
So,
often though up here.
Yeah.
I hear them in Eagle River early in the morning, but
Yeah.
you don't hear them very often.
I hope
missed
they
that.
punch through into Canada so we can actually get some decent rail traffic.
Yeah, I love trains. I mean, I rode several of the AAR trips last year for research, and just fascinating. Really cool. It's a good way to see Alaska, especially that one that goes out to the glaciers, like the one that goes to Seward, but there's an out and back train,
yeah,
Glacier Discovery train. Really good.
I take the one to Palmer. I don't recommend it.
The one to Palmer's like through the birch trees.
Yeah, and it goes 12 miles an hour for some reason.
No, that one that goes all the way, I think the winter when they call it the Aurora, it goes up to Fairbanks and back.
Oh, yeah.
Fairbanks one day and then back, stops in Talkeetna. It's really cool to be out there in the middle of, it's a whistle stop. So, people can,
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Put the
lot of
flag
whistle stop
up and-
communities just north of Talkeetna.
yeah, it's really cool.
You're surprised how many people live out there.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Should we see? Are we caught up?
We're completely
Oh,
caught
we
up.
are caught up.
Yeah.
All right.
Being on this other table.
Sorry, did I take your spot?
No, you're
I
fine.
took your
I
spot.
was late.
No,
so
no, no.
that's okay.
Generally, it's always the guest here, and then we
Oh, okay.
rearrange. But
All right.
when we don't have a guest, Lori sits
Lori
in the
sits
middle.
I
there,
gotta sit
yeah.
there, yeah.
Well, because when we do the pocket dump, she's got so much shit. She has to have a lot of room.
Yeah. Her purse and her backpack. And
No, it's one tiny. I don't know how it fits so much stuff in like a tiny little bag. And I was like, maybe I need a big bag, and I have to like empty it out like my clown bag. I'm like, I don't need a bigger bag. I just couldn't find anything. I found a bar of chocolate from my flight from Vegas in January in the Bud Boy
See,
shop.
that's
Still
why
in
you
your
need more
pocket?
space.
Still in your pocket?
It's still my bag.
Oh, your bag.
Yeah, not my pocket. No, I washed my clothes on your faces. And I was like, oh, okay.
It may be kind of like a basic question that you might have answered a million times before, but I wasn't there for it. So if you'll forgive me, to bring it back to you in your writing. Myself, like as a young man, I really enjoyed like Ray Bradbury,
Mhm.
Stephen King, things like that. There was some of my favorite authors as a young guy, and if I were to have gone into writing, I definitely would have been inspired by them. What about you? What when before you were a now known writer, what made you want to do it? What were some of your early favorites? What gave you inspiration to try it?
Yeah, so my aunt was a librarian when I was growing up, and she lived in Utah, and we lived in Texas, and she would come visit us every year and
That's a fairly
bring us big
specialized
boxes of. Yeah, she back when there were more librarians. I'm a big proponent of libraries, obviously as a writer, but she'd bring us boxes big. It's just me and my sister at the time. I have younger brothers, but they're like my kids' age almost. But she'd bring us boxes and boxes of books from the time I was 3. And so when I was about 8, she brought me a signed copy of Where the Red Fern Grows by Nelson Rawls.
Yeah.
And I was reading chapter books, Hardy Boys and stuff like that when I was 8 years old, and working my way through them. But Where the Red Fern Grows was the first book that I remember that really made me cry.
Yeah.
And I back then teachers had a little more latitude of what they could do, and so I took it to my 3rd grade teacher, and she was such a beautiful lady, and her name was Miss Whitehead, and I just had a real crush on Miss Whitehead, and I would sit at the front.
Shout out to
and
Miss Whitehead.
Shout out to Miss Whitehead, and who's 90 years old now. But I bet she's still beautiful.
killing it.
I bet she's still
She's
beautiful.
still got
it. Killing it.
Right. But I remember her as my 20-something-year-old teacher. So I took the book in, and she said, "Yeah, I'll read that. I've heard good things. And it's an old book now, but it was not that
At the
old
time,
at the time, and not well known. The movie wasn't out yet, and all that." And so she read it. I remember her just weeping, just slinging snot, crying, and I was sitting on the front, just.
That's great.
And so I just thought,
You kind of saw the
I could
power.
do that.
that
I did. I
writing
saw the power,
Yeah.
and I want to write books. So my first books, we lived on a little farm, and where my bedroom was, it was an old, super old house. My grandpa and my dad actually nailed the door shut of the bedroom next to mine, and they'd use that to hold grain, so I could hear the rats playing at night. It was awesome childhood. I go, it's like you again. But out my door on a moonlit night, you could see these, I can't remember, 6 or 7 white limestone grave markers of a teacher and the kids that were killed during the Comanche raids. And so I
Holy
grew up
shit.
seeing that. So I read, and I had a dog, and I was one of those very fortunate young guys that lived on a farm in Texas in the 70s, where this would have been 70. Not the 70s, but
That's
70.
still part of the family.
Yeah, 70 or 71.
Getting.
I got my own gun when I was 10.
Yeah.
Wandered all over a section of land and hunted and fished, and just so my stories were almost all fan fiction about boys and dogs and Old Yeller and that kind of stuff. I read a cool review. I never read my own reviews because I stopped.
Don't
Very
do it.
smart.
I
Yeah,
stopped
don't do
like I think I stopped at like
There.
the third one because I could get like 55 stars and I don't believe I get one
You get
star. I'm
one
like,
star and you're like,
it's horrible.
well, and then you're like, hate fucking responding.
Yeah, I
What's
never
wrong with me?
never respond. But I believe them. But I was reading. Sometimes when I'm feeling down, I read other authors' reviews.
Makes you feel better.
Exactly.
Boy, they really
Feel
gave it to
better.
Bob over here.
Exactly.
I'm doing okay.
So I'm reading a Fred Gibson.
See, there is a
review.
guy who hates Jack Carr.
I love Jack Carr. He's a good guy.
No,
But
yeah.
you're right. That does make me feel good. So,
I'm sure he gets a 1 star once and again.
once in a while. But I read a bunch of reviews on Fred Gibson, who wrote Old Yeller back in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
And there's this 1-star review. You guys know Old Yeller?
I-
The story?
Yeah.
I don't want to wreck it for you.
No,
I don't
you're
wanna-
fine.
all right.
Spoiler alert, it
Spoiler
was
alert.
written in 1910.
Spoiler alert, the dog dies, right? And
What?
so
The hell you say?
I know. I'll never. In fact, there's a truism that you never want to read a book with a dog on the cover because that dog's
Because that dog's gonna die.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. If you introduce a rifle in the first act, it
You
must
gotta
be
use
used
it.
in the third act, right?
Exactly.
So if you introduce a dog, in the
There's
first
got to be
act,
some heart-wrenching
I killed that fucking
tale
dog.
about the dog. Exactly. So this I guess some teacher made her students write reviews as part of it, and so this kid is like, "This book sucks, Mr. Gibson. I'll never read anything by you again," as if he was still alive. The dog dies. How dare you kill a dog in your book? And I'm like, well, this is freedom of speech. That's
Yep.
good.
that's what we need in critic reviews. Not that I agree with the whole idea of a critic, but that's what we need 9-year-olds to tell us
Exactly.
what
Well,
they think
sometimes
about a dead dog book.
when I was reading my reviews, I think they were 9.
That's fair.
I like reviews. Don't get me wrong. I really want people to write reviews. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, reviews help us.
Oh no,
They help the algorithm. I just personally, it's like knowing your own IQ. If you're super, super smart, you're like, I am super smart. And if your IQ is low, you're like,
This test is
I
stupid.
suck. Yeah, this test is stupid. So reading my reviews,
the whole world
because-
is rigged.
exactly.
'Cause I'm
People will
dumb.
write and say, you wrote THEIR instead of THERE. And I'm like, well, you know what? I know the difference. But that was 5 books ago, and I can't change it.
You know?
So you're basically
Wait.
holding my head on the pea spot in the rug. Okay, if that makes you feel better. So.
And to be fair, that probably went through what, 30 people?
Oh my gosh, it's
So
horrible.
30 people all proofread it and
Wait,
transcribed it.
I am 44 years old, and I have to in my head go the ear to spell it right. THEIR, the ear. And for okay.
Well, when you
So
write
let's say-
fast, yeah, when you're writing fast, you're writing, I see a movie in my head, and so there, and there, you're, and you're,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
That's for the internet to
It's
sort
and
out.
it's and all the stuff. I try really hard, and it's not that I don't know. It's just, but like you say, it gets a lot of
Is that
eyes
one
on
of the
it.
reviews that you've gotten?
Oh, plenty, all the time.
That
Yeah.
you
I just
spell
wanted to
mistake?
point out that you have
Spelling
this
mistake.
mistake on chapter 67. I always,
2 stars.
yeah, 2 stars.
You know how many people are in between me and you moron?
And again, I'm not trying to disparage reviewers because I want reviews.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like I think Clancy readers sometimes sit back with a TI-80 graphing calculator and a slide rule and check apogee. And I mean, I can't remember which book it was. I knew it was Code
You
of
did
Honor.
not correct the
Exactly.
mills on when you adjusted your
Well,
scope. That's
exactly.
not right.
I had a in the state of emergency, I had this really nice, now emails are different. Send me your emails, whatever. But I got an email from a nuclear physicist in Idaho. and he was like, "Love your books, but you got the half-life for plutonium, whatever, ever wrong." And I'm like, "Dude, I am just so happy that a nuclear physicist is reading the Jericho Quinn." I admit it. I somehow flipped the half-life. I know what the half-life is. I didn't at all. I looked it up. It was in my notes. I mean, I tried to get it right in the books, but I don't remember that stuff. My knowledge is 10 miles wide and that deep because I remember it for as long as it takes.
Yeah,
People
and then,
ask me
then you gotta
books.
go.
Yeah, 2 books down the road when I'm finally doing a book tour, and they'll say, "Oh, I like that part when you were talking about the something satellite in that book," and I'm like,
Okay.
I bring up
gotta
shit to
remember
you,
that.
and you're just like,
I know. That's because I'm just stunned by all the knives. There was in axes and stuff. There was a part in the very first Clancy, Power and Empire, and I got a friend in the Secret Service. He's retired now, and I've worked with the Secret Service, I've worked with the FBI and a bunch of different agencies, but there's a lot of things I don't know, and I want the little backstory to flesh out, to make it real, to make it right. And so I'm typing along, and I want to know about a presidential lift, like how do they get how do they transport the Secret Service cars to where they're going? And I didn't know what kind of airplane they use, and so I'm writing along, presidential lift, Jack Ryan, da 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 da, and then I wrote in block letters, highlighted in yellow, "Ask Nick," and that nearly made it into the book. I reread it many times. My
and just
wife read
glossed
it,
over it.
and your eyes just skip it. It went to my acquisitions editor, Tom Colgan, and then it went to the copy editor, and then it went to the final editor. And we get these things. They used to call them blue lines, but they're like a picture of the book as it will be, and it's your last chance. It's the page proofs, basically. Yeah. It's your last chance to go through. And out of a book that big, there's usually 20 or 30 pages of there, and there's, and it's.
So how does that relate to an arc then?
Okay, so arc is that.
Okay.
So there's going to be those. So if you can find an arc of Power and Empire in the middle of it, there'll be.
I might have one at home.
There'll be a little thing that says presidential lift C-17, C-5. Ask Nick. And I had already checked it, and I'm like flipping through it. I'm like, oh, and it was like cold water just washed over me because that was my first Jack Ryan effort, and. Oh, it was horrible. I'll have bad dreams about it now.
No worries. There would have been a first special edition,
and
then there would have been a second edition.
Believe me, there's plenty of errors. In the newest one, the one that came out last year, I made the silly error. It's, Red Winter, the one that's set in 1985.
Right here.
So I had so many great.
Which I have to admit, I'm on my second go-through. Very confusing.
That's all right.
Very enjoying it, but on my second go-through.
People like that one. I liked writing it. It's very
so
partially because it is. You didn't grow up in 1985. I mean, I was.
Well, I was 6.
Yeah. See. Well. Okay. So
not a lot of memories.
I was 30 or 20, 23. I was starting out police work, and so my son was born. My son's just a little bit older than you, my oldest son. But so a lot of those things are.
Your oldest.
Yeah, my oldest.
Your oldest is a physician, right?
He's an ophthalmologist, right? Air Force, still in the Air Force. But so I'm riding along. I got some really good helpers with F-117 pilots and CIA guys and all that stuff. So the F-117 guys can talk about this now because it's not super top secret anymore. Yeah. And so
that's been retired since what, the 80s?
So if you can dial it back and get all the pertinent information.
Like the late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, so they're helping me, and I knew it, but I wrote that it was developed by Lockheed Martin. And Lockheed and Martin didn't merge until like 90 something or late 80s or early 90s. And it was developed by Lockheed, but not Lockheed Martin. I get letters.
Still?
I get lots of letters. Yeah. And I deserve it. It was an error, and I should have known. But so I really try, but I write upwards of 1 million words a year when you count drafts, and I am going to make errors.
Besides nuclear physicist, have you gotten any other like oddly detailed emails like this person knows what they're talking about?
Oh yeah, all the time. I also got a letter from a guy that read one of my westerns recently, and there's a lot in the Arliss Cutters and the westerns about tracking, and he wanted to talk to me all about toes. And so I just deleted that one. That was kind of weird.
Wait,
It was
wait,
very
what?
detailed letters
Toes?
about, because I talk about tracking and looking at people's, the footprints. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a portion in one of the Westerns where
Everybody
The-
wears extra toes?
no, exactly, yeah. So you read my books.
Come on now.
So, but in one of the Westerns there, like moccasins, if you watch somebody that walks over hard ground in a moccasin, you can see the actual footprint of their foot, right?
Yeah.
The toe grip and all that, because the way moccasins are, that's why they're really kind of a nice thing to wear when you're being tracked, because it's a little harder to track somebody that's wearing soft-soled moccasins. And I talk about Maggie, the Nez Perce lady, and how her toes dig into the dirt. It's like 3 sentences. But this guy was very interested in Maggie Sundown's toes and wrote me a very long,
Delete.
detailed email.
Just delete.
I was
That's
like,
a lot of feet.
yeah. That's,
We got some from the peanut gallery here, which I mean our fans. We've got Dave Stewart coming in here saying that he read a lot of Alistair McLean
Oh,
books
yeah.
back in the day.
yeah, good stuff.
How many books a year is ideal amount to publish for you in your time?
I do 2 a year now, and I think ideal would be 1 a year.
You're not Brandon Sanderson, who just sits there and pumps out like
Yeah.
30 books a year,
Well,
No, and I can write.
which he's a machine. No one knows how he does it.
Yeah, no one knows. He's amazing, and he writes good books. And
sometimes.
puts them on. Well, you know what? That's the way we all are.
Sometimes
If
shit, man.
you've got that many,
I can't do what he does, but
If
I
you got
consume his media.
true, and everybody has the right to have a favorite.
Huh.
But I think the scariest thing that any writer can hear is when somebody walks up to you and goes, "So, I read your book." And you're like, what are you gonna say next? Because if you're right, I've written 25 now, and out of those 25, somebody's going to hate one of them.
Yeah,
They're going to have
for
a
sure.
favorite, and that's just, it's subjective. And you can't get offended, because that's like saying, "You're wearing a blue shirt. I hate blue." Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
Sucks because you are too.
Yeah, I know. I don't hate blue, but
Do you have any more westerns in your future, or is that horse rode on?
no, I think that most of my books are westerns in one way or another. I mean, they're buddy books.
I can see the Cutter series as
Yeah.
Western-y.
Yeah, I described
It's the
Cutter.
modern Western.
Well, if you know the Marty Robbins song, "Big Iron on His Hip," that's
Yep.
Arliss Cutter. He's a guy that comes into town.
Everyone
And-
thinks
and
he's
even
gonna
wear-
die,
yeah,
and he
exactly.
proves everyone wrong and
And
knocks
he-
the guy down.
He wears his grandpa Grumpy's coat
Oh,
pythons.
Okay, speaking of, are you grumpy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people. Well, it's funny when we used to watch. One of the training videos of the Marshal Service is Justified, of course, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
we like to. So we all watch. When I was a kid, we watched. True Grit, and then later
Yeah.
on, when my kids were kids, we watched Tommy Lee Jones, US Marshals, and then as they got older, and now Justified, and there's a new Justified coming out. But so in the Marshal Service, we really like shows about the Marshal Service, right?
Yeah,
Obviously.
for sure, yeah.
And so we're watching, except for Con Air and Eraser and stuff like that aren't very real. Fun movies, but they're not really about the Marshal Service.
Yeah.
That show about witness security, that was pretty good as well, with Mary McCormick. I think that's pretty good. So we're watching Justified, and I'm seeing Raylan Givens. He's cool. Tim Oliphant and all that. Everybody likes that snake-hipped guy.
Big old smile.
Exactly. And so we're all identifying, and my wife looks at me and she goes, "You're Art, right?" And I said, "Okay."
You are.
Art's the chief. He's the bald-headed chief. I guess I can't be Raylan. I gotta be Art.
I gotta be Art.
Your spirit animals,
My
right?
spirit animal is Raylan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually a line in the Cutter books where, and this sort of thing happened to me. So when you fly armed, you got to show your credentials and all that, and then you fill out some paperwork, and then they send it on to the pilot and all that. So I'm getting on the airplane. And back when I was young and prettier and had hair and less some red in my hair, and so I show my credentials. And we have the Marshals have kind of a unique badge, and it's on the outside of our creds, the circle star, like a Texas Ranger style badge.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that you show our badge, and then, so we always slide it over with the badge down so everybody around us can't see it. So I slide it over, and the lady's looking at it, and she's kind of smiling at me. And she goes, well, you don't look like Tim Oliphant. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm not trying to be Tim Oliphant. Tim Oliphant's trying to be me. And so I was not near that
I'm
cool.
just trying to get on the goddamn
Yeah, I was
plane.
trying to get on the plane. So that's not really, I wasn't that cool. And I wish I would have thought of that at the time.
Yeah.
But you can bet Arliss Cutter says that
Oh,
when he goes
well,
up into the.
So if you get to write it, you can just rewrite it however you want it to be.
Exactly.
I just love that series with him.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've heard writing your first book is always the hardest. So do you recommend new authors just shoot and do their second book instead?
Well, you know what? Getting through your first book is hardest. Writing the second book and putting it out for publishing, especially if the first book is successful, that sophomore book is hardest.
Really?
Because if your first book is successful,
You're like,
you want to redo it and you want it to be better. And so it's a gut punch. And for instance, my 24th book was way easier than my 25th book. The Clancy that I'm working on right now is, oh my goodness, it's just, I like it, but it is hard to get out because I liked the confusing book that you're trying to read. I liked Red
I'm
Winter.
on round 2.
I liked Red Winter so much because I like that kind of book, spies,
Yeah, me too.
Cold War and all of that.
Well, and it's so that's my problem is it's so intricate, and so it's like, all right, so I'm gonna go back through.
No, that's good. No, that's good. That's actually a good thing. I would love everybody to read my books many times.
Well, I mean, a lot of these have some pretty bent up spines.
I appreciate that. It makes me happy.
Got another one here. This is not a real comment. You should write a book about Chook, the cryptid hunter.
I follow Chook on
that-
Instagram.
Is that Chook coming?
No, that's
No, I
that's
know,
Dave's
I'm joking.
I
story.
recognize the name, Dave.
Well, I don't. Chook's his real name. Maybe
Yeah,
it's Dave
yeah.
Stewart. I don't know what his real name is. I see him in here.
I don't know if we should say his real name.
Yeah,
Maybe
Billy?
we won't,
Is it
but-
Billy?
No,
Is it?
I don't know his
Is
real
it
name.
Billy?
Well, it's Ben. You're Chook.
We've gone through our hour here pretty quickly. We appreciate everyone here tuning in. We'll be with you live on the first Saturday of next month, but unfortunately we won't have Marc Cameron. Is there anything you wanted to say before we tune out here?
MarkCameronBooks.com?
Yeah,
link in the
markcameronbooks.com.
description.
Yeah, and thanks for all the support I get from you guys with
Oh,
the knives and
of
everything.
course.
It's fun to put a bit of Alaskana in the books and make them real.
I wanted to ask you to come on here for a long time, but it felt weird.
No, that's because I'm weird. But no, I appreciate you having me on. This is great.
Well, thank you.
All right. See you guys on the first Saturday of next month. Have a great